welcome to Amethyst Star Crafting. My name is Jane Allmark and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And today we are going to make this really sweet little box. It has a little opening closure here, so it fits really nice and snugly. And inside I have got two little love hearts packs. These are the mini love hearts. Now you can get them, they're by Swizzlers. They've been around for years and years and years, but you can get little mini ones which fit perfectly. This is the actual bag that I got them from. They've been going since 1928, but you get a complete bag of them. I'm sure that you can get them on many different online shops, but they fit perfectly inside here. So you can fit two side by side, and then the little box closes up, and you then have your nice little box, perfect for wedding favours, perfect for little gifts. I've got friends who have got children and who have just done their A-levels and their GCSEs and things like that. So just a little treat or something would be really nice. And obviously with them being love hearts, I've put the love on there and the little heart. So how do we make this little box? Well, you can actually make 4 boxes out of 1 sheet of cardstock. So you can make them in any colour, in any way you want. But the little closure I think is really nice and neat because it allows the box to close properly. And that's a little trick which I will show you later on in the video. So what do we need? We need a... to make 4 of them, you are going to cut your cardstock 5.5 inches by 4 inches. So you can get 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 1 sheet of cardstock. I'm just going to put that out of the way for now. Then we need to get our scoreboard, and I am going to hopefully stand up a little bit on this so that you can actually see it, because I haven't got a huge amount of space in here to be able to do it. So on the 1 inch side, just put that so you can you see that in there? Let's take that little box out of the way so it's not in there. Right, so you can see that on there. On the 1 inch side, we are going to score it at 1 inch, and we're going to score it at 3 inches. Then turning it around, we're going to score it at 1 inch, at 2.5 inches, at 3.5 inches, and at 5 inches. Now I will put the measurements over on my blog, so if you look in the description box below, I will have all those details. And that's all the scoring we need to do at the moment. There is going to be one more score later on, but you then have this lovely little piece like that. And I just need to grab my bone folder, which is over on the other side, because that's where I was working. And I like to burnish everything to start off with. So we're just going to, on all of the score lines, we're just going to fold and burnish. I find it makes it easier for me. There's all sorts of ways of doing boxes. This actual box itself is not a new idea. It's been around for quite a while, but I think the closure probably is, because the original closures that I've seen, I didn't like very much, so I thought I would change the closure. So okay, we've now just burnished it and scored it on each one of those sides. So we are going to very simply cut up all of these lines along here. So you've got the top part and the bottom part are exactly the same. So we're going to score them up. Now, my trick as well, and I hope you can see on this, is if it is a square, you cut, you wedge it. If it is a rectangle, you cut just inside the score line, so it's nice and neat. So we're going to cut just inside the score line on here. Just inside the score line on there. And I tend to do all my cutting in one go and then do the wedging in afterwards, because I find it easier. Because then I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going inside on my rectangles. So now I've done that and I've got that where I want it. I can then turn round, and this is a square. So this is going to be a tab. So I can just gently wedge in on this one. And gently wedge in on this one. And you only need a little bit of a wedge. It's the normal rule of thumb. You can always cut more away. But you can't stick it back on afterwards. So if you make your wedges quite narrow, if you need to cut a little bit more away afterwards, you can then do that. So just cut this one and cut that one. Then we're going to turn around and we're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So this is a rectangle. We're going to cut on the inside of the rectangle. Now, people have been making boxes forever. Can flick through this because they know how to do these things. However, I remember when I first started trying to make boxes, I found that everybody was doing it so quickly that I couldn't really get to grips with what was going on. So I take my time to try and explain to you to make it easier so you don't make the same mistakes that I did when I started. So this is a square. So the square we can wedge. Okay. And that's a square. So we can just wedge in on that square. That's a square, so we can wedge in on that one. And that is the end piece, and we're not going to do anything with that at the moment because I want to do all of these pieces first of all, so you can just see. Now, the reason that we wedge into things is it makes the box close more neatly, so you don't have a little bit sticking out. So that basically is the amount that you're going to be cutting off. So that we can get rid of. Now, you'll notice that all of these are the same, apart from these pieces here. Now, these pieces, we don't want these two. So these two little tiny ones can actually come away, and we are going to just take them away at an angle so we have just a little bit of a wedge there. Okay, so this one again, just at an angle. And then you have the wedge there. That was a bit of a cockeyed angle. So with my lights, I get quite a reflection. So I'm just going to cut that in so you can see that. Okay, so we've got this piece there. So these two little pieces can go away as well. So this is what we have. Now, we are going to turn round and look and see how we're going to fold this box. So this is going to be the flap that is going to put the box together. So if we put the box together like this, we want this seam to be at the back. So that's going to be at the back. And then we want this piece, we are going to take away completely. So this piece here, and I always say, do it first so you don't get it in the wrong place. Now I'm just going to give that a wedge. And to cut it easily, if you put those two pieces down, you'll then be able to cut along in a straight line. You've got the score line, so we're going to cut this piece completely off. Okay, and try and get it as straight as you can. Like that, okay? Now, this little piece that we've got left, we're going to take our scoreboard out again. And this little piece measures 1 inch. So on the short side, so it measures 1.5 inches by 1 inch. On the 1 inch side, we are going to score it in half. So just taking our score, but it's a little fiddly one, so you need to be a little bit careful. but take your time, and then you can score it straight in half like that. Okay. Now, there are various different corner rounders about. So while we're at it, we want to round the corner. Now, I have still got, and I still use, my envelope maker, because I find that's perfect for corners. So I'm just going to pop it in here and just quickly round the corners. But anything that you have to round the corners will work. If you haven't got anything to round the corners, then just take your scissors and do a little wedge piece, because that will work as well. So we now have this piece, and what we're going to do is we are just going to fold it and burnish it. And we are then going to put it on. So this piece here, let's bring our box back again. This piece is the piece that is going to, when we fold it together, that's going to be the back. That is going to come over on the front, and that's going to tuck in. So this piece here, we want to put just with a little bit of wet glue. You can put tear and tape if you want, but I like wet glue because it does come right up into your edges and it does stick exceptionally well. So just put some glue on there, and then you're going to take this piece and you are going to put it on the inside and just line it up. The easiest way is to line it up with the top there. So take it on both sides so you've got it exactly lined up with that edge. And with the wet glue, it allows that little tiny bit of wiggle room. Okay, now, when you look at it, if you've got any little pieces sort of sticking out, you can just trim those down with your scissors so it lies completely flush. But that gives you, I'm going to put the bone folder on it so it lies nice and smooth. That gives you your little flap, and you haven't used any extra paper at all. You've literally just used what came off of this piece here. So it then makes the box complete with your little folding closure. Okay, now I always try and put my designer series paper on while it is flat. It's far easier to do it than trying to put it on once it's folded. We are using these beautiful papers, which are from the Perennial Essence designer series paper, and they are beautiful floral images, all sorts of different images, and they work with the Blackberry Bliss, because on the back of every single pack of our designer series paper, it tells you what colours are in the paper, so you can coordinate something and you know that it'll match perfectly. Okay, so we now need to take our mats and pieces to go on there. So I have cut 2 pieces. Again, the measurements will be down below, and these are 1 3/4 by 1 1/4. So 1 3/4 inches by 1 1/4 inch, and we need 2 of those because we are just going to put those on here. So basically they are 1/4 inch smaller. You could do them an eighth of an inch if you wanted to, but I think that 1/4 works quite nicely and just gives enough of a border of the Blackberry Bliss cardstock that it shows through nicely. So we're going to put the other piece on here, and this is ideal to use up tiny weeny little bits of scrap that we have over. You always end up having a strip off of somewhere, and this is perfect for that. So the next piece we need is 2 pieces, and they are 1 3/4 by 3/4 inch. So 1 3/4 is exactly the same length as those, but they are 3/4 inch because that space is 1 inch. So again, it's the 1/4 inch smaller, and then that puts it in on there. And again, if you have something that is I would suggest if you're using little scraps that you use something that doesn't have too much of a busy pattern. If you have a very busy pattern, it's going to be difficult to sort of line it up unless you're really good at lining things up and you cut it all out of the same piece. If you're using up scraps, then as long as you've got the same sort of colour tones and things in there, it doesn't really matter because this is sort of floral. Okay, and then the last two pieces, which I am going to, again, make sure that I put on once I've folded it a bit. They are 1 inch by 1 1.25 inches because they're going to go onto the bottom and the top. So let's fold it in again how we want it. That's going to be the back. We know that this piece is going to go on here, so that's quite easy. We can put this piece on. I think I'm going to have that one on the top because that's prettier. Because as I say, it's just cut out of tiny, weeny little strips. So that piece is going to go in onto the top here. Rather nice little pieces of flower that have come out on this. So that's just going to tuck in on there. And then the other piece, I'm going to make sure again that I've got it right. Now we want this, because our seam's at the back, we want this to fold into the back. So this is going to be the piece that we need to put the designer series paper on, because that's going to be the bit that folds through to the back, so that, as I say, all our seams are lying across the back line. So before you start putting your papers and things on, just spend a few minutes closing the box up so you know exactly A, where you're cutting, and B, where you're putting your paper on. I'm going to say it again. I always say this on videos, don't I? I'm just getting to the end of my glue, but it's actually the same one again. Now, I've forgotten because I was talking. That's going to be the front, so it's this one, isn't it? Yeah, so we can just put this little piece in on here. And that goes on there. Okay, right, so now it's putting it together. So this is our little side tab. Let's put some glue in along here. So you always need to make sure you get glue right along that seam line. And then we're going to be able to put that in, fold this down, because this is going to be exactly the same length. So it's very easy to close it. You know it's going exactly on the right place. So again, with the bone folder, just sort of move it from side to side, both sides, because it means that the glue gets a chance to adhere. Because wet glue does take a few minutes longer than other types of adhesive and stuff. Okay, so that's our box bit on there. Then the bottom, we are going to put these side pieces in and the bottom piece in, and then we've got this top piece which we're just going to put some glue on. Now I tend to put the glue round the top sides, down on the side, and then I'll do a bit along the bottom just so that it seals in. You don't need to do it inside because it's not going to be it's not going to open from there. So just fold it down and make sure that you've got your box sort of corners level so that it goes in nicely. And then if you put it up this way and just take the end of your bone folder and just sort of smooth it down, it will make sure that it seals properly. And as I say, you can spend a few minutes doing that. Okay, so now we need to just put our sweets in. So let me just take 2 out of here. Good old rackly thing. And what I would do is just the tops and the bottoms, just sort of push them down a little bit. They do go in quite nicely, but we're just going to put 2 of those in there like that. Let's get that one in the other side and push it down, and then our box will close. and it closes beautifully and stays perfectly shut. Okay, now to just decorate it, I have used the well-written framelits. I absolutely love these framelits because you have complete little words and the love. So you have you've got 2 sheets with everything in there: happy, friend, welcome, birthday, anniversary, all sorts of things. And the love will actually fit perfectly just down there. And I thought, with it being love hearts, it would be nice to do the love. There's also a tiny little heart, so I've cut the heart out. There are little flowers and birds and things like that. So you could swap the changes up and put other things in, or anything that you have. But it works really well. Now, just before we do that, if you look at this, it's quite difficult to find where you're going to open it. So we need to put just a tiny little thumb helper in there. So let's take these little love hearts out, and any small hole punch will do. So any circle punch. I've got this really tiny weeny one because I know that it'll fit perfectly in between the box. If you want to do it with a bigger one, you could do it before you put the box together, but just sort of line it up in the middle, give it a bit of a squeeze, and you've then got a nice little thumb hole in there, which means that it's easier to close it. So let's put this back in there now so we can then see, whoops, where we're closing it. Pop our little love hearts in. And as I say, these would be perfect for wedding table favours, you know, because they're fun, but they are fairly inexpensive. So if you're making sort of hundreds of them, or making them for parties and things, you know, it's quite a good idea to have something which isn't going to cost the absolute earth. So, right, let's take that little piece out. Now, I have cut, when you make your, if you want to cut 4 of these out of 1 sheet of cardstock, you will find that you've got a little strip over, and that is absolutely perfect for putting this in. So I'm just taking just a little bit of glue round on here. You can use sticky sheets and stuff, but I find that the wet glue is quite easy to use, and I'm just putting a little bit in round on here. This is me taking an awful long time doing that, but I haven't. I always turn around and say I should have got a new glue out, but there we go. So you just need to follow the letters round. I've probably got a little bit too much glue on here now, but again, spend more time than I do. I always try and sort of rush things for you. Okay, and I'm putting this down at a little bit of an angle because that means that it will fit in absolutely perfectly. So just pop that in at a little bit of an angle. I have got a bit more, too much glue. However, the glue does dry clear, so it won't show. And then the little tiny weeny heart, we are just going to put that up with, again, with a tiny little bit of glue. You could put this in silver, you could put this in another colour, you could put this the little heart with glimmer paper, all sorts of things actually, but I'm just putting it there because I just want it to be just a little heart that's not wanting to stick on, because I don't think I got quite enough glue on there. Let's just pop that in like that. There we go. And so we now have our second little box, and again, you know, carry on and make as many as you want of them. They're great little favours to make, but as I say, I really like the fact that they have the little closure like that, and you can get that out of the actual box itself when you're making it, so you've got a lovely little closure on it. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching me. Do look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye.